Hello, my sunrays. I'm back from a 2-week vacation, and we'll be reading Izuku Shigaraki by fangirl48. Um, I will try to post every other day. Uh, if I, yeah, yeah, yeah. But I hope you're having a good day or night, and I hope you enjoy. Summary. Not many know the story of All for One and One for All, two brothers locked in a conflict with each other since the beginning of Quirks. But fewer still know have but fewer still know have heard of Izuku Shigaraki, the youngest brother of the two who went missing under mysterious circumstances over 200 years ago. Now Izuku is back and not happy with either of his brothers. Chapter 1. Wake Me Up. There is a place forgotten by both heroes, villains, and normal citizens alike that exists deep beneath the city. The homeless population who roam the underground labyrinth will tell stories to newcomers of it being haunted by the souls of those who perished hiding from society during those early decades when Quirks first appeared. They would also warn them that there was one place in the tunnels you should never venture because rumor had it was home to the worst of them all slept. No one knew their name or even if they were male or female, but had taken to calling it them San because of the character from 3 that was displayed above the chamber where they slumbered. However, this time is funny. Time is a funny thing, and unknown to those who lived underground, they would find out exactly who their sleeping monster was. Ironically, it was thanks in no small part to the constant tremors of battling above that some of the beams holding the ceiling up now ex- now explode due to the passage of time. They were starting to buckle under the strain, and today, thanks to a well-placed kick from a hero, one finally snapped free. A singular small beam tumbled down towards the chamber, hitting and cracking the frosted glass, releasing a stream of cold, pressurized air from within. All at once, the machine's long sleeping system lit up and came alive again with an automated voice. System failing. Reanimation of subject interment. Dormant vents started to turn back on as cold air was pushed out while warm air was drawn in, slowly raising the temperature and melting the frost that once condensed Sand's face. Attempting to connect with Department of Quirk Affairs. Failure to connect. Subject's full reanimation in 60 minutes. All for One was giving Tomura a lecture on how to properly control the large Nomu when he suddenly paused to look of pure shock and disbelief. Izuku? Toshinari Yaki, aka All Might, could feel his heart squeeze as a unknown feeling ran through him, deep within One for All. Green eyes, and Izuku Shigaraki took his first breath in 200 years. That was chapter 1 of Izuku Shigaraki. This will be chapter 2. I'm going to put them both in here since chapter 1 was short. Obsessively writing down everything he thought might help him get home, promising to return to the shop. he had produced it from with payment and a bonus for the owners as thanks. But everything around him was so strange and different. It was like the world had suddenly been turned on its head overnight. Powers were accepted, buildings looked undamaged, everyone was smiling, while people with visible abilities weren't being spat and cursed at. Most surprisingly of all was the existence of so-called heroes and villains. Izuku had laughed loudly the first time he had came across such a ridiculous fight, much to the ire of the civilians watching, and later the heroes themselves who had lectured him about heading down a dark path. If only the so-called heroes he was who knew he was talking to the youngest brother of the most powerful man in Japan. Speaking of his brothers, Izuku had tried numerous times to call both Hisashi and Tomura, but neither of them picked up, or he was chased away by someone who would yell at him to go to school or home. The youth was honestly considering sneaking into school. He came across the next school he came across just to have some undisrupted phone time. Izuku knew his brothers were somewhere in Japan. He could feel when he pushed one of his powers to its limit. The youngest Shigaraki was having a hard time finding them because said ability was quite exhausting. And there was a strange feeling each brother was giving off. Tomura's signature felt buried deep beneath something, while Hisashi's could be gone 1 second and then fractured the next. It almost felt like the man had duplicated himself. Izuku laughed to himself at the mere thought of a duplication power. So lost in his thought, he barely had time to react before he was engulfed in a foul-smelling liquid and equally slimy voice purred in his ear. A perfect medium size, a, per- a perfect medium size hiding spot. Don't worry, kid. I'll take it. Don't worry, kid. It shouldn't take me more than a minute to hijack your body and just relax. And Izuku reached up and grabbed this sludge holding him, activating his ability and blasting the parade presence off him out of sheer force. Reaching up some of the foul liquid, the teen turned to glare, letting red veins rise on his skin and green sparks flying across his body, similar to that of his eldest brother when he used his unnamed power. Izuku, like Hisashi, had multiple abilities and stored them up in his body, but he couldn't give them to others. Instead, he could do something else entirely, completely illiterate in illiterate. Yeah, I think that's how you say it. Since Hisashi was absolutely shit at naming things, Tomura had stepped up and gave his ability to take and destroy powers a name: all or nothing. The sludge villain tried to pull himself together, quickly, instincts taking over as his bulged eyes looked at the boy in absolute terror. Please, have mercy. Mercy, Izuku chuckled, walking calmly towards the cowering form. Did you show mercy to the people whose body you've hijacked. Reaching out, Izuku was about to destroy the disgusting power when something, or rather someone, burst from the sewer. Have no fear. Why? Because I am here. Yoshinori had been out shopping when he ran across a robbery. Quickly adapting his muscular form, the number one hero gave chase, but the villain was fast, using his sludge and knowledge of Mufasa's sewers to slide in and out of cracks, preventing Toshinori from capturing him at first. But soon the hero started to gain on him and eventually tracking him down to this underpass. Bursting out of the sewer, he quickly said his famous line, nearly coughing up blood at the sight that greeted him. The sludge villain was cowering in fear, much of his liquid body sprayed across the tunnel, while a young boy stood over him, a glowing hand posed to attack. Who the fuck are you? Toxic green eyes stared and familiar pattern crept over his body. Are you serious? The sludge villain gasped, looking at the boy in disbelief. That's All Might. The fuck is an All Might? At first glance, the boy looked like his nemesis reborn, except especially wearing the suit that looked entirely identical to All For One's signature outfit. The only thing missing was the jacket. Ha ha, civilian, Toshinori laughed, walking over to the boy, trying to remain calm as the boy suited his appearance with intelligent green eyes. Once he was close enough, All Might leaned down, placing a hand on his shoulder to keep him in place. Surely you know I'm the number one hero. Green eyes narrowed. The boy tried to shrug his hand off, only to frown further when it held him tighter instead. Let me go. Giving another fake laugh, All Might leaned down slightly, looking directly into the hooded green eyes, while his own blue ones stared out from dark shadows. Take a good look at my face. Remember me now? The sludge villain chuckled nervously, collecting himself in a haste. Looks like it seems like you both have something to work out. You're not going anywhere. The boy spoke, attention returning to the villain, glowing hands swinging around and grabbing them before All Might could stop them. There was a flash of light that blinded them for a moment, and that caused the number one hero to cover his eyes, listening to the villain scream in pain. When the light finally faded, he could see All Might, and when he could finally see again, All Might found not a pile of sludge greeting him, but instead of an average-looking man with hair the same green color as the sludge on the ground, naked, looking at his hands in shock. And the boy disappeared. Cursing, Toshinori quickly dialed Tsukati's number in and gave his location to his friend for pickup and promised to explain later, while the former sludge villain started to rock back and forth, muttering to himself about a monster. Not knowing which way to go, Toshinori picked a direction and hoped for the best as he started his pursuit of the devil. I hope you enjoyed. That was chapter 2 of Izuku Shigaraki. I decided to put them together since chapter 1 was short. So I hope you all are having a good day or night. And I'll see you next time.